Let's assemble the oyster band. So you're going to open the assembly that we created earlier on. And we're going to start by adding the end link. So you're going to select product 1, insert existing component, and select end link. You can go to compass and select snap automatically to selected object, so that when you select it from the specification tree, it snaps automatically to it and you can drag it along the y-axis close to where we're going to assemble it. Next, you're going to add the lag screw, and once again select it from the specification tree and drag it along the y-axis. Now that we have them in position, we are going to add the constraints, starting with a coincident constraint. So select coincident constraint between the screw and the middle case, and once again between the screw and the end link. Then we need to make sure that this screw is in contact with the end part. So you're going to select from the middle case the inner face of the slot, select contact constraint, and you're going to rotate this and select the face of the screw. Lastly, we need to make sure that this end link aligns with these two faces. So you can select an offset constraint between this face and this face, and the value is 0. Select OK. Now you can update, and as you can see, it snaps into position. So we need to repeat this for the other side, and we don't need to go and add the end link and the lag screw again. You can just copy them. So you can either use a shortcut Ctrl E, or you can go to Insert and define multi-installation. So you're going to select it. The component to instantiate is the end link, and we're only gonna need it once. Then you can define the directions here and also the distance. So we're going to reverse it to the other side. I'm going to enter 70 millimeters as the distance. And then I'm going to select OK. Then now, because we are assembling it on the other side, we are going to rotate it. So you can just rotate it using this axis. Then you're going to select lag screw, and once again Ctrl E and select OK. So now you can move them closer to where you're going to assemble them, and define the same constraints as we did on the other side. First, a coincident constraint between the lag screw and the middle case. Then between the lag screw once again and the end link. Then a contact constraint. First, I'm going to select the surface. Contact constraint between that surface and this face of the screw. Let me repeat that once again. You can try on the other side. Select that surface, contact constraint between that and the end part of the screw. Okay. Then finally an offset constraint between this face and this face, and the value is 0. Select OK. Then update, and we have this installed. Now we can start adding the links of the band, and we're going to start by adding 5 on each side. So select product 1 and then insert an existing component, and you're going to select link. Select it from the tree and move it along the y-axis. Then insert screw 1, select it and also drag it along the y-axis. So the constraints are similar to what we just did. You start with coincident constraint between the screw and the end link. Then between the screw and the link. Then here we're going to work with offset constraint. So we need this face to be to end exactly at the edge of this face. So select OK. And then we can offset this inner face here with this face also 0. Then update, and we have our first link. So then we can use the first multi-installation to just add more links. So you're going to select Ctrl E and start with the link. For the components to instantiate, you're going to select the link. Let me try to select it from the tree. Okay. And then the instances is 4. Then you can see that you can control which direction you need to add it. So right here, we're going to select the y-axis. 70 millimeters is okay. And you're going to select OK. Then you're going to select screw 1. And once again, Ctrl E. I'm going to reduce this distance because I don't want them to be aligning here. So probably 50. And the instances is 4. Select OK. And now you can add the constraints. So it's coincident between one link and the screw. Then the secondary link with the screw, and then an offset between end of this face and end of the link to 0. And same case with this side, this link with the screw to 0. Then update and continue with the other ones. So I'm going to fast forward here, but it's the same case for every single installation. All right, now we have our band for one side, and we're going to repeat the same process on the other side. So you can select Ctrl E and you're going to select link 1. But this time you're going to reverse the position, the direction I mean, and then these stars represent where the links are going to be positioned. So we need them to be aft this end link on the other side. So what we're going to do is to increase the length here. So instead of 50, you can select 150. And as you can see, we have pushed them to this side, but the first one is still around this point. So maybe you can add more, select about 170. It's now at this position. Try 200. Okay, I think that's fine. We can just drag it out and select OK. And you're going to find the new links here. So you can select the first one and move it out like so. You're going to repeat the same process with the screw. So you're going to select screw 1, Ctrl E, and we can make this 150. Select OK, and then from the tree you can select the first one and drag it out like so. Now one thing to remember is that now these links need to be rotated to fit in the watch because it's the opposite direction. So you're going to rotate each and every one of them 180. Just flip it. Like so. And we're going to start with the first one here. So 2 coincident constraints, one between the screw and the end link, and then another coincident constraint between the screw and link 1. Then we have an offset constraint between the end of this screw and this link, which is 0, and between this face, an offset constraint between that face and that face to be 0. Then you can update. From there you can proceed with the others. I'm going to bring this one closer and then repeat the same. Start with coincident constraint between link 1 and the screw, then between link 2 and the screw, then offset between the end face of screw 1 and link 1 to be 0, and offset between the end face of screw 1 and link 2 to be 0. Then update. And we're going to repeat this for all of them. So once again, I'm going to fast forward. All right. So one thing to note is that when we are adding these links, one side is going to have more links than the other. And that's because we are going to be adding an end link to one side. So it's like it's going to have an extra link. So if this side has 5, this side is going to have 4. If this side has 6, this side is going to have 5 plus the end link. So I think we're going to add one more on this side. So I'm going to select this component and Ctrl E. Have to reselect it. From components to instantiate, select this link. Maybe try to select it from this side. Link 5. Y-axis 30. The instances is 1. Select OK. And then we have this screw number 5. Also Ctrl E. 20. Select OK. And then same procedure. Assemble it using 2 coincident constraints and 2 offset constraints to make sure they align at the end. And then we're going to add, so we have 6 links here. And then we're going to have 5 on this side. So we're going to select this link, link 9, Ctrl E, $30mm. On the Y direction, reverse the direction, select OK, and then select the last screw here, which is screw 9, Ctrl E, and 20mm. Select OK, and assemble it. Then update. So now we have our band. You can hide the constraints. So first show all of them and then hide all of them. So now you have the watch and the band. And now because you have assembled them using the screws, you can actually move the band to whatever position you want them to be. But you have to remember that every action has a reaction. So if I move this down, this one is going to have to correspond to that movement. So maybe we can try to make it you don't have to move the screws, they're just going to move accordingly when you update. I'm just moving them down so I can get a picture of the final shape. So you can do a shape like that and just update. And as you can see, everything snaps into position. You can do the same for the other side. Like so, and update. And I hope now you get an idea that you can move these bands however you want them to be. And one thing we're also going to do here is edit the ambient of the material. As you can see, the steel is very dark. So you can reopen, let's say, open the link. And where you created the material, you can double click on it. And here you'll find the ambient and other properties of the material. So you can try to increase it. Say 6.5. Also add a little bit of reflectivity. Like so. And then select apply and OK. And now if you go back to your assembly, you see that it automatically picks up on those properties, and now it's a bit lighter, closer to what the oyster steel looks like. And you can basically do the same with the end link and the middle case as well if you want. So let's open the end link. This should be 6.5. I think I'm going to leave the other aspects as they are. Then select OK. And you can save it here. So you see it also picks up. And lastly, we can open the middle case. Then edit the steel. 0.65. Save. Then lastly, we have the crown. So now it looks like so. And for when you're maybe rendering your product, you can go to view lighting and try to change the angles at which the light is facing. That's going to directly affect how your product appears. So here you have a couple of options. You have no lighting, you have a single light that you can control, and then you have double lights so that you can be able to light it up from different angles. And then from this part you can be able to adjust more properties like the specular, you know how bright it is, and so on and so forth. Diffusion. So yeah, you can adjust these properties to fit your preference. And I think so far so good. So you can try to play around with the degrees of freedom here to kind of see how the assembly is working. So you can fold it on one side. Say like that on that side, and maybe stretch it out on this side. So the band is going to behave exactly as it would behave in real life with the same degrees of freedom. And I don't know if you noticed, but when we were specifying where the screw is going to go, we left a small distance in between them so that we would have space to move. And then you can render this, or you can just screenshot so you can go full screen, and you can swipe up and down the tree if you don't want it to be in view, and you can maybe set it up and do some renders, or you can take it to a secondary software like Keyshot, add materials, you know, do all that. The arms, they also need some kind of editing to make them more visible, so you can work on that as well. And for example, the second hand, you can open it up and then you can go to this material that you created and increase the ambient so it's more visible. The roughness. And then you can always go back here and check and make more modifications if you need me. So now you can see the second hand more clearly than it was before. You have the hour hand. You can reduce reflectivity. reduce some roughness. You can also change it to a different material if you want, or a different painting. It's all up to you now. But the most important part is how to create the assembly, and now you know how to do that. So now, of course, the only thing that is remaining is to create the clasp that you used for closing. So that is the oyster clasp, oyster lock. And we're going to do that in the next upcoming episodes. So I'll see you then.